Why is it that so many who study manifestation, who fill journals with affirmations and visualize with devotion, still find themselves circling the same old frustrations? The promise of infinite creation seems so close, yet slips through the fingers like mist. Beneath all the techniques lies a single missing piece, not hidden by cruelty, but by simplicity. It has been overlooked, twisted, sold as fantasy. And without it, the path to freedom becomes a loop of trying harder and feeling smaller. You have been told to focus, to picture, to want with all your heart. But what if the very structure of that wanting is the cage? Imagine a locked safe. You're told there is treasure inside: wealth, love, purpose, freedom. You're handed keys, affirmations, wish lists, visual boards. You turn the lock again and again, but the door stays still. You push harder, louder, more desperate. The handle doesn't move. And in that moment of exhaustion, you start to wonder if the treasure was ever real. Yet here's the secret few dare to speak: the safe was never locked. The key was never what opened it. The door yields only when you stop rattling it and match the frequency of its stillness. The real science of manifestation isn't a matter of demand or intensity. It is a matter of state. You are told to desire, but rarely taught to align, to crave outcomes instead of coherence. And so the field reflects your turbulence, not your intention. The truth is unnervingly elegant. The universe responds not to your words, but to the vibration beneath them. Without coherence, every I am dissolves into noise. With coherence, a whisper becomes creation itself. That is the hidden puzzle: not power through effort, but resonance through being. The notion of coherence lingers like a faint echo that hum between effort and surrender. It invites the next question: how did humanity forget something so simple? How did the sacred mechanics of manifestation become tangled in confusion and commercial glitter? The answer is uncomfortable, but essential. Somewhere along the path, spirituality and science divorced. Desire became product. The sacred art of resonance was traded for formulas of effort. Centuries of teachings reduced the mystery to slogans: think positive, believe and receive. It sounds empowering, but hides a trap. Because when the focus shifts from being to doing, from alignment to acquisition, the seeker becomes a consumer of methods rather than a creator of meaning. The forbidden puzzle was never locked away by some dark force. It was buried beneath the noise of our own overcomplication. The truth hides not in the arcane, but in the obvious. Consider this. What if manifestation was never about making reality obey your will, but about becoming so internally aligned that reality has no choice but to harmonize? The ancients hinted at this through metaphor: mirrors, rivers, breath. They understood that creation was a reflection, not a negotiation. You don't force a river to flow, you step into its current. Yet the modern world, enamored with control, teaches you to dam the current, to command it through mental strain, forgetting that water yields only to rhythm, not resistance. And so we built an empire of techniques: vision boards, chanting lists, obsessive affirmations, each one another layer of armor against the discomfort of stillness. Stillness terrifies the mind because stillness reveals the illusion of control. But coherence, that union of heart, mind, and field, is born from stillness. You cannot fake it. You cannot bargain with it. You can only remember it. Science, in its quiet rebellion, has begun circling back to this ancient truth. Quantum research doesn't preach mysticism, but it whispers a challenge to our assumptions. Beneath particles and probabilities lies a pattern that defies linear cause and effect. Energy responds not to command, but to coherence. When two systems synchronize heartbeats, oscillators, Even neurons, they share information instantaneously. The universe itself may operate on resonance, not force. So what happens when you translate that into human consciousness? When your internal chaos, the fractured signals of fear, doubt, and impatience begins to align, you stop interfering with the field. You stop sending mixed frequencies that cancel one another out. The forbidden puzzle reveals itself. Manifestation is not a chase. It is a calibration. You do not summon outcomes, you stabilize the signal that already contains them. And yet, this realization carries a cost. Because once you understand that the power has never been outside you, you lose the comfort of blaming circumstances. There is no more waiting for the universe to decide. There is only the quiet, radical responsibility of alignment. That is why so few unlock the puzzle. It demands maturity, not magic. It asks you to trade wishing for witnessing, effort for embodiment. But if this feels heavy, consider the relief on the other side. You are no longer trapped in someone else's formula. You become the formula, the living equation of energy meeting intention. The field is not withholding anything. It is mirroring exactly what you send. When the signal changes, the reflection must follow. And this is where we turn next, into the mirror itself. For beyond the puzzle lies the observer, the one whose gaze gives form to possibility. If coherence is the missing piece, observation is the ignition. The mirror stands waiting silent, impartial, endless. Every reflection you have ever known begins here, not in the world, but in the gaze that names it. You may think of this mirror as metaphor, but physics insists it is literal. Reality itself behaves like a mirror, obeying the focus of the observer. This is not poetic exaggeration. It is woven into the mathematics that govern the invisible. Before observation, everything is potential, not solid, not certain, only probabilities. Particles drift like ideas in a cosmic brainstorm, vibrating in many states at once. And then something astonishing happens. A consciousness observes, and the cloud collapses into form. The unseen becomes tangible. The wave becomes the world. You may feel the echo of that principle in your daily life. Every decision, every perception, collapses the vast field of could be into this is. You think you are moving through reality, but in truth, reality is moving through you. It is your attention, your frequency of observation, that decides which version of the field becomes real. Science calls it the observer effect. Mysticism calls it co-creation. Both point toward the same hidden architecture. Your state of consciousness determines which layer of the quantum field crystallizes into experience. What you see is never neutral. It is resonance, sculpted by coherence or its absence. Imagine looking into a mirror that does not show your appearance, but your vibration. When you observe through fear, the reflection becomes threat. When you observe through lack, the mirror multiplies scarcity. When you observe through wholeness, everything around you aligns to confirm it. The field cannot lie. It responds with merciless honesty to the signal of your state. This is why affirmations alone often fail. The universe doesn't answer to your sentences, it answers to your coherence. Words are surface ripples. State is the tide beneath them. You could repeat, "I am abundant," endlessly. Yet if the current beneath those words hums with doubt, the mirror will reveal only the doubt. You are not being punished. You are being reflected. So the question shifts. How do you observe? From which frequency do you witness the world? Because the field is neutral, infinite probabilities awaiting your signal. You may speak of manifestation as attracting outcomes, but it is more precise to say you collapse one version of potential through the tone of your awareness. Observation is selection, not summoning. This makes the act of seeing sacred. Every thought, every judgment, every breath becomes an instrument tuning the field. When your perception softens, possibilities expand. When your focus tightens in fear, the wave collapses prematurely into limitation. Observation is creation in slow motion. And here lies a deeper paradox. The more you chase proof of manifestation, the less coherent your observation becomes. The mind grows restless, doubting, demanding evidence. But the field doesn't respond to demands. It responds to alignment. To observe truly is not to inspect, but to embody. The observer's mirror activates only when you are the reflection you seek. Think of the chair beneath you, the air around you, the sound reaching your ears. All of it was moments ago pure potential. It became real through the intersection of consciousness and matter. That is the quiet miracle hidden in plain sight. You do not live in a universe of fixed things. You live in a living conversation between energy and awareness. This understanding changes everything. It moves manifestation from a technique to an identity. You are not trying to convince reality. You are reality noticing itself. The field collapses in response to recognition. The mirror doesn't choose, you do. And as you begin to grasp that truth, another layer unfolds. If observation shapes reality, then the quality of your vibration, your emotional frequency, becomes the language through which the universe listens. What you feel is what the field reads. The next step is to decode that language, to understand how vibration and state merge into coherence, how the inner frequency becomes the outer form. Because what begins as observation must evolve into resonance. And that, friend, is where science meets spirit on equal ground. The moment you glimpse the mirror's truth, another realization begins to rise like a tone behind the silence. Observation alone is not enough. It must carry a frequency. You are not simply looking at reality, you are broadcasting through it. The field does not interpret language. It reads resonance. And resonance is determined by your state. Every emotion, every thought, every breath generates a measurable signal. You can feel it when you walk into a room filled with tension. The air itself seems heavy. Or when you meet someone radiant with peace, their calm steadies you before they even speak. That is frequency in action. It is invisible communication, energy translated into presence. Now imagine that this unseen signal is the true interface between you and the quantum field. Your state, not your sentences, not your rituals, is the code the universe responds to. The vibration you carry becomes instruction, blueprint, command. A scattered state collapses into scattered results. A coherent state collapses into coherent reality. Think of two tuning forks. Strike one, and if the other is in resonance, it vibrates in sympathy. This is not metaphor, it is physics. Energy systems synchronize when their frequencies match. The same principle applies between your internal field and the larger field of creation. You do not attract your desires, you synchronize with their vibration. But here is where most seekers stumble. They try to think their way into frequency. They repeat affirmations, visualize outcomes, craft mental pictures, all while their body trembles with stress. Their heart beats in anxiety. Their breath quickens with fear. The broadcast fractures. It's like trying to play a symphony with every instrument out of tune. The field hears not the melody, but the noise. Coherence, therefore, is not positive thinking. It is alignment across all levels of being, mind, heart, and body vibrating as one harmonic signal. When you achieve that alignment, the frequency you emit is unmistakable. It cuts through static like a clear bell in fog. You do not need to beg reality to respond. It has no choice but to echo the tone you sustain. Modern science edges ever closer to confirming what mystics have whispered for ages. Emotion and physiology are not separate from perception. The state of your nervous system determines the quality of information you receive from the environment. Fear narrows the signal. Gratitude expands it. Your body is not a passenger on this journey, it is the antenna. So, when you say I am abundant, the question is not whether your words are convincing. The question is what frequency rides beneath them. Does your chest feel open or constricted? Does your breath flow or strain? The body never lies. Its rhythm either amplifies your signal or scrambles it. Here lies the essence of vibration. It is not mystical fluff. It is the tangible expression of coherence. And this coherence is not achieved by denial, but by integration. You do not reject fear, you meet it until it dissolves into understanding. You do not suppress longing, you transmute it into appreciation. That is emotional alchemy turning reaction into resonance. As you learn to feel frequency rather than merely think it, you become fluent in the universe's native language. Every heartbeat becomes data. Every inhale becomes code. You realize that manifestation is not an intellectual act, but a biological one, your entire being participating in the field's conversation. From this perspective, effort loses its relevance. The question shifts from what should I do to manifest to what state am I broadcasting right now, because what you radiate, you replicate. The world around you is simply the echo of your tone. And this tone, this inner signal, is not random. It can be tuned, refined, harmonized. That process of tuning is where quantum theory meets mystic practice, and where the idea of entanglement reveals the next layer of the mystery. The field does not merely mirror you, it moves with you. Everything you seek is already woven into your vibration, waiting to resonate. The next revelation, then, is not about attraction but unity, not about chasing frequencies, but remembering that you and your desired reality are already entangled in the same field. The notion of vibration leads naturally into a deeper mystery, one that blurs the line between science and the sacred. Entanglement, a word born in laboratories, now echoing through temples of thought. It describes a phenomenon that seems almost mythic. Two particles, once connected, continue to influence each other instantaneously. No matter the distance between them, change one and the other responds faster than light, beyond time. But pause and feel what that means. The universe does not separate its parts, it synchronizes them. What appears distant is only space folded into illusion. The field does not contain fragments. It hums as one continuous body of awareness. The same truth applies to you and every possibility you can imagine. The version of reality you long for, the one where peace, abundance, and purpose already exist, is not a fantasy waiting to appear. It is an entangled counterpart, a frequency twin, bound to you through the invisible web of coherence. Yet entanglement does not guarantee manifestation. Connection is not the same as embodiment. You may be linked to infinite versions of yourself, but only the one whose frequency you inhabit can collapse into form. The quantum field, in its merciless precision, mirrors the coherence of your being. When you embody the state of already having, the entangled pattern aligns. The wave collapses. The potential becomes tangible. This is the threshold of what ancient mystics called the God state, not the arrogance of claiming divinity, but the remembrance of participation, the recognition that you are not outside creation. You are creation perceiving itself. In that state, there is no need to chase, beg, or command. The field does not respond to authority, it responds to unity. When nothing in you contradicts the outcome you seek, the field cannot withhold. Hold it. Imagine this state as a perfect chord. Every note, mind, emotion, body tuned to the same frequency of wholeness. There is no static, no interference. In that harmony, manifestation is no longer a task. It is a reflex. Reality bends toward coherence because it is coherence. You are not summoning the divine, you are remembering you have never been apart from it. This is why those who dwell in genuine peace often find that synchronicities bloom effortlessly around them. They are not manipulating reality, they are resonating with it. The field organizes itself around their inner order. That is the secret pulse behind what some call miracles. They are not exceptions to the law of physics, but demonstrations of it, the field responding to undivided intent. But here comes the paradox. The more you try to achieve the God state, the further it retreats. Because trying implies distance. The field reads the subtext, not the statement. I am becoming still vibrates as I am not yet. True embodiment does not chase alignment. It is alignment. You reach it not by addition, but by subtraction, releasing every vibration that contradicts wholeness until nothing remains but coherence itself. To live from this awareness is to move differently through the world. You no longer interpret delay as denial. You no longer see challenge as opposition. You begin to recognize that even obstacles are part of the field adjusting your frequency. The mirror remains flawless, reflecting only your tone, and with that realization comes a profound humility. Because in the God state, there is no hierarchy of creation, no better or less, only varying degrees of coherence. You see that your desires were never about getting something, but about remembering the version of you that already holds it. Entanglement ensures that every outcome you can imagine exists right now, intertwined with your consciousness. The only variable is whether you are attuned to that particular strand. And here, the bridge to embodiment appears. If wholeness is the cause and coherence is the key, then the body itself must become the instrument, not as a vessel of wishful thought, but as the living circuitry through which the field conducts creation. For the next truth is physiological, not philosophical. Coherence is not an idea, it is a rhythm. To enter that rhythm, the mind must surrender its throne to the heart. The next step is not more theory, but pulse, breath, and biology. Science and mysticism converge again at this crossroads, revealing that coherence can be measured and trained. That is where the hidden science begins to glow with living proof. The pulse of the heart, the synchronization of the brain, the body as the bridge between potential and reality. The bridge between thought and creation has always pulsed beneath your ribs. The heart not merely a symbol of feeling, but a command center of rhythm, electricity, and awareness. Science, after centuries of dismissing its intelligence, is finally remembering what mystics always knew. The heart doesn't just pump blood, it broadcasts information. Every beat carries a signal, electromagnetic, emotional, and quantum. This signal radiates far beyond your skin, influencing the field around you in ways that are both measurable and mysterious. When your heart's rhythm is jagged, stressed, anxious, divided, it sends chaos into the field. When it smooths into harmony, it emits coherence. And coherence, friends, is the purest language the universe speaks. The HeartMath Institute calls this phenomenon heart-brain coherence. In their research, when subjects enter genuine states of appreciation, compassion, or gratitude, their heart rhythm forms a smooth sine wave, elegant, consistent, almost musical. The brain, sensing this order, synchronizes with it. Neural patterns align, cortisol drops, intuition sharpens. The body enters a state that ancient mystics described as union with the divine order of things. You may feel this alignment without realizing it. The moments when you look at the sky and everything seems to breathe with you, when time slows and your body feels both light and rooted. That is coherence, the field responding to your rhythm. Consider what happens when coherence is absent. The heart races unpredictably. The nervous system floods with stress hormones. The brain loops on survival patterns. You try to visualize abundance while your physiology screams scarcity. The field cannot translate mixed messages. It does not interpret words. It reads vibration. Coherence transforms that static into song. When the heart and brain align, your entire organism becomes one clear broadcast. The electromagnetic field around your body expands, becomes structured, stable, potent. You are no longer scattering power in all directions. You are beaming a single, unmistakable signal into the quantum fabric. Think of it like tuning a vast orchestra. Each instrument, mind, emotion, body contributes to the sound. When out of sync, the result is dissonance, loud but meaningless. When in sync, the symphony awakens something primal in the universe itself. It moves creation to respond. This alignment is not theoretical, it is trainable. You can feel coherence rising as warmth in the chest, as calm in the breath, as clarity in thought. The process begins with awareness, sensing the rhythm of your own heart. Then, with intention, breathing gratitude through that rhythm. It's not performance, it's remembrance. Each inhale calls in potential. Each exhale releases resistance. Slowly, the body begins to hum in agreement with the field. Here's what modern instruments show during coherence. The body's electromagnetic field expands by orders of magnitude. In this state, your perception widens. You begin to sense synchronicities faster, communicate more clearly, intuit more deeply. Coherence does not force outcomes, it makes you compatible with them. The field no longer sees contradiction, so it responds instantly. Mystics once called this state the temple within. They weren't wrong. It's the moment when the divine circuitry of biology meets the infinite canvas of consciousness. Breath becomes prayer, heartbeat becomes mantra, and the body becomes a living altar of alignment. But there's something deeper still. Because coherence is not meant to stay theoretical or measurable, it is meant to be lived, felt, embodied. It's not enough to understand the mechanics. You must experience them. That experience is what turns science into sacred practice. And so the journey shifts again from comprehension to participation. The next layer is the embodiment ritual itself, a simple yet profound act that translates coherence from concept into sensation, from insight into reality. It is not a ceremony for the chosen few, but a gateway available to all. What you are about to meet is not instruction, but invitation. The breath will become your bridge, the body your teacher, the field your witness. Begin with a single breath, not the kind you take without thinking, but the kind that feels like the universe inhaling through you. Find a quiet space where the hum of the world fades to a distant echo. Sit or lie down, but keep the spine awake, as though remembering its purpose to bridge heaven and earth. Close your eyes. Let the external dissolve. There is nothing to fix, nothing to force. Inhale deeply through the nose, slow and deliberate. Feel the breath descend, belly expanding, ribs widening, chest lifting like the tide rising to meet the moon. At the peak of that inhale, pause. Hold that stillness as though it were sacred. In that stillness, whisper silently, I live. Now exhale through the mouth, long and steady, as though releasing centuries of noise. Whisper softly to yourself, in coherence. Let the body listen. Again, inhale, I live. Exhale, in coherence. The rhythm begins to weave itself into the fabric of your awareness. The breath becomes a code, programming the body with remembrance. Each cycle of breath is an act of union. You are not merely exchanging oxygen, you are drawing potential into form. The inhale gathers the quantum field infinite possibilities, shimmering and unchosen. The exhale collapses them into the state of coherence, the now. At first, the mind may resist. It will try to narrate, to judge, to wander. Let it, then gently guide it back, not through force, but through curiosity. Feel how the heart responds to the breath, its rhythm slowing, smoothing, synchronizing. Feel how the body begins to warm from within. There's no goal here. You are not trying to manifest. You are practicing remembrance. Each inhale affirms existence. Each exhale affirms alignment. You are teaching your body the language of coherence, not as idea, but as muscle memory. After several minutes, you may notice a subtle hum behind the breath, a vibration that seems both inside and around you. That is the field recognizing you. The nervous system quiets. The heart's rhythm steadies into a smooth wave. The mind softens its edges. You are not losing consciousness. You are expanding it. In this state, the borders between observer and observed begin to blur. The body no longer feels separate from the breath, nor the breath from the space it moves through. This is what mystics meant by union, the point where doing dissolves into being. The ritual reveals its true nature, not a performance, but an identity rehearsal. You are training your cells to remember wholeness. Now, let the breath guide you deeper. Inhale with a sense of invitation, potential. Exhale with a sense of completion, alignment. The words are not affirmations, they are frequencies. The heart understands them more than the mind ever could. Stay here for a few more cycles, allowing the coherence to deepen until the very air around you seems to vibrate differently. You may sense warmth, tingling, or silence that feels alive. These are not fantasies, they are signals, feedback from the field responding to your broadcast. When you're ready, open your eyes, but do not rush back into the old rhythm. Notice how the room feels subtly different. It isn't the world that changed, it's the lens through which you perceive it. You have shifted from thinking about coherence to being coherence. This ritual, practiced consistently, rewires your body's memory. Coherence stops being an occasional miracle and becomes your default signal. You no longer seek the state, you live it. You breathe as the field breathes, move as the universe moves. But there remains a final illusion to dissolve, one that traps even the most devoted practitioners. The illusion of waiting, because coherence achieved in stillness must survive motion, and motion tempts the mind back into doubt. The next revelation dismantles this final wall, the illusion that manifestation lives somewhere in the future. Even after the breath slows and coherence fills the air around you, the mind begins to whisper again. Has it worked yet? That question, quiet as it may seem, is the seed of delay, because the moment you wait for evidence, you broadcast absence. The instant you ask if the mirror has changed, you have already stepped out of the God state and into the waiting room of time. This is the subtlest trap in all of manifestation, the belief that creation happens in the future. You imagine your desired outcome as something that must travel toward you through the corridors of days and weeks. But in the language of the quantum field, there is no future, only state. The field reflects the vibration you hold now. Waiting, therefore, is not patience. It is postponement disguised as virtue. Every time you sit in expectation, you radiate the signal of not yet. And the field, flawless in its honesty, mirrors that broadcast with impeccable precision. The result is more waiting. The future recedes like a mirage on the horizon. You chase it with more affirmations, more visualizations, more effort, unaware that each act of striving reinforces the frequency of lack. Think of tuning a radio. You do not beg the signal to arrive. You adjust the dial until the sound becomes clear. The song is already playing. The only delay lies in your tuning. In the same way, your desired reality exists now. vibrating in the field. Manifestation is not summoning, it is synchronization. The music never stops. You simply learn to match its pitch. This is where science meets mysticism once more. Neuroscience now reveals that perception is not passive. Your brain does not simply record the world, it predicts it. It projects expectations forward, constructing what you call reality from the inside out. Your nervous system is, in essence, a prediction machine constantly building the world according to the pattern of your belief. If that belief is "I am waiting," the system generates a future that keeps you waiting. But when coherence becomes your baseline, the prediction shifts. The body stops scanning for what is missing and starts attuning to what already is. Gratitude becomes the evidence. Joy becomes the confirmation. You stop chasing outcomes and start witnessing their unfolding as natural extensions of your state. This is not denial of the physical world, it is mastery of perspective. The mirror does not lie, it simply follows. To watch it too closely is to interrupt its flow. You do not pull on your reflection to make it smile, you smile, and the image responds. Manifestation works the same way. Every failure you have ever known was not proof of a broken law. It was proof of a perfect one. The field never malfunctions. It cannot betray coherence. When your outcomes stall, it is not punishment, it is feedback. The universe speaks only in reflection, never in rejection. So the shift begins here. Stop measuring progress by external confirmation. Begin measuring it by internal stillness. The less you need reality to change, the faster it does. This is not paradox, it is precision. The field interprets surrender as trust, and trust as signal strength. Many seekers fear that letting go means losing control. In truth, letting go is what restores it. Because control in the quantum sense is not manipulation, it is harmony. When you live in coherence, your every action carries the imprint of alignment. You stop pushing against the current and begin moving with it. So the illusion of delay falls away. What remains is immediacy, the realization that creation and observation are the same act, that time itself bends around the coherence you embody. The universe is not testing your patience, it is matching your pulse. And when you finally accept that truth, something extraordinary occurs. The need for proof dissolves. You no longer ask if it's working. You simply live as though it already has. You walk as if the prayer were answered, because in the field, it already is. But the journey doesn't end with this awakening. To live free of delay is to live permanently in coherence through storms, through silence, through shifting mirrors. That state of permanence is not an achievement. It is a remembrance. And that is where the final transformation awaits, learning to sustain the God state not as practice, but as your natural pulse. To live in coherence for a moment is beautiful. To remain there when the world trembles, that is mastery. The mirror will still flicker, storms will still come, and yet something in you will no longer move, because permanence, in the realm of consciousness, is not about stillness without change. It is about identity that remains stable amid change. The ocean that knows its depth even when the surface rages. When you first touch the God state, it feels like grace, a fleeting alignment where everything flows. But if you depend on circumstance to sustain it, the moment will fade as quickly as it arrived. The real art is to hold coherence even when the mirror delays, even when the reflection looks distorted. The test is simple: can you stay aligned when the field echoes back chaos? Because in that choice lies freedom. This permanence does not come through control, but through remembrance. The God state isn't something to reach for, it's something to return to, again and again, until the return becomes residence. Each breath brings you home. Each challenge becomes the invitation to reaffirm coherence. You stop asking, "When will it manifest?" and start asking, "Who am I being right now?" It's not perfection that defines the awakened observer, it's persistence of coherence through imperfection. The enlightened heart doesn't silence all noise, it simply tunes it into harmony. When fear arises, you do not exile it, you breathe coherence through it. When doubt whispers, you do not argue, you listen until it dissolves. Every reaction becomes raw material for resonance. This is how coherence matures into permanence through repetition of remembrance. The nervous system rewires itself to stability. The body memorizes peace, and the field learns your new signature. At first it feels like practice. Soon it feels like nature. Coherence stops being something you enter and becomes something you emanate. Think of it as the difference between visiting light and being light. The visitor marvels at illumination. The being simply shines. The same is true of the God state. Once embodied, it no longer requires effort. You may still experience moments of contraction, but even contraction becomes rhythmic part of the pulse, not the prison. You begin to see that every cycle of expansion and contraction is creation breathing through you. Science offers its own mirror for this process. Neuroplasticity shows that the brain reshapes itself according to repeated experience. Emotional coherence leaves imprints in neural pathways, strengthening stability under stress. You are literally training your biology to remember divinity. What mystics call enlightenment, neuroscience might describe as adaptive coherence, a nervous system so balanced it reflects reality without distortion. From this place, the relationship between self and field transforms. You stop negotiating with the universe. You no longer make requests. You express currents. Gratitude becomes your baseline, not because everything is perfect, but because you sense perfection running underneath everything. The God state is not denial of shadow. It's awareness that even shadow serves the symmetry of light. This state invites humility. For once you see how reality mirrors coherence. You realize every judgment you hold is a self-reflection. Criticism becomes recognition of your own discord. Compassion becomes acknowledgement of shared vibration. Permanence is not isolation atop a mountain. It is participation without distortion. You can stand in the noise of the world and remain a clear tone within it. And the more you sustain that tone, the more the field around you organizes. Circumstances begin to orbit your stability rather than disrupt it. Synchronicities become ordinary. Coincidences turn into conversations between your coherence and the cosmos. You realize creation is continuous, not an event, but a dialogue. Eventually, the boundary between inner and outer dissolves completely. Life becomes an unfolding mirror that speaks your frequency fluently. In this space, prayer becomes breath, manifestation becomes motion, and waiting vanishes entirely. You stop practicing spirituality. You start embodying spirit. But this realization cannot remain solitary, because coherence, when sustained, does something extraordinary. It becomes contagious. One resonant being can recalibrate many. The next and final revelation expands from the personal to the collective, the moment when coherence moves from I to we, from individual alignment to planetary resonance. The hum of coherence does not end at the edge of your skin. What stabilizes in one heart sends ripples through the field of all hearts. Science hints at this synchronized brain waves between close partners, emotional contagion across crowds, the way global electromagnetic shifts mirror collective stress and joy. Mystics have always known it more intimately, the field that holds you, holds us. There is no solitary vibration. Every coherent state you maintain becomes a tuning fork in the fabric of humanity. Your calm steadies a stranger. Your gratitude ripples through invisible threads, softening fear in places you'll never visit. This is not metaphor, it is mechanics. The same principle that entangles particles entangles consciousness. Resonance travels through the web of reality faster than language, faster than light. Imagine a world where coherence becomes the shared frequency, streets humming with presence instead of panic, conversations laced with genuine listening instead of defense, economies flowing through compassion rather than scarcity. It sounds idealistic, but it begins simply with one coherent breath multiplied. Each time you choose alignment instead of reaction, you contribute to a global recalibration. There is evidence, subtle yet persistent, that collective emotion affects physical systems, geomagnetic fields, biological rhythms, even weather patterns. Whether or not you accept the science, you can feel the truth of it. Consciousness is not contained, it radiates. When many radiate together, the field begins to sing a different song. That song is evolution itself. Consciousness remembering its unity through coherence. So what role do you play? You become the node of remembrance, the living demonstration that presence is power. You no longer chase personal manifestation as proof of worth. You embody coherence as service. Each aligned act, each patient breath becomes a broadcast that stabilizes the greater whole. The field doesn't measure the volume of your words, it measures the purity of your tone. And when enough tones merge, something astonishing happens. The frequency threshold tips. Chaos reorganizes into order, confusion into clarity. The same way two metronomes on a shared surface fall into sync. Entire collectives can harmonize when coherence becomes more dominant than fear. You can feel it during global moments of silence or in the unified emotion of shared compassion. For an instant, humanity breathes as one organism. This is the hidden invitation behind every personal awakening, not escape, but contribution. You align not to ascend away from the world, but to illuminate it from within. Your coherence becomes permission for others to remember their own. The field amplifies resonance more efficiently than resistance. Consider the simple act of gratitude practiced in solitude. It might feel small, but in the quantum sense, no vibration is isolated. Each coherent heartbeat sends order into chaos, symmetry into entropy. You are participating in planetary maintenance with every pulse. Spirituality stops being personal development and becomes ecosystem restoration. The collective mirror begins to change. As more observers hold coherence, the field's baseline frequency rises. Old systems built on incoherence start to fracture, not in punishment, but in recalibration. What once felt like collapse reveals itself as reorganization. A new pattern emerges, one aligned with resonance rather than resistance. You will recognize this shift not through sudden miracles, but through subtle coherence weaving through the ordinary. You'll sense time slowing, conversations deepening, creativity returning. The field, responding to the growing harmony, becomes fertile again. And from that fertility, a new civilization of consciousness begins, one built not on control, but on coherence. This is the full arc of manifestation, from the personal to the collective, from the hidden science to the living art. You were never meant to simply manifest objects or outcomes. You were meant to remember your participation in creation itself. When enough of us live that remembrance, the quantum and the spiritual cease to be separate languages. They become one dialogue, one rhythm, one breath shared across the mirror of existence. And in that moment, you will realize the simplest and most profound truth of all. You were never manifesting reality. You were reality manifesting itself, through coherence, through love, through us. The final echo of this transmission is not meant to rise, but to settle. Let the words slow until they feel like breath more than speech. The field does not end here, it continues, quiet and awake, listening for what you will become next. Permanence. You now know is not a crown to wear, but a rhythm to inhabit. The world may continue its noise, headlines, demands, the old machinery of fear, yet beneath it all, coherence hums like a steady pulse. You have felt it in your chest. That subtle order the universe seems to recognize instantly. Keep that rhythm. Protect it not through defense, but through remembrance each morning. Before you open your eyes, feel for the signal. One inhale of potential, one exhale of alignment. Let that breath be your ritual. The simplest doorway back to coherence. The day will respond. Reality will adjust, not because you command it, but because you mirror it faithfully. Remember, the field has never been outside you. The mirror was never separate. You are both the reflection and the light that makes reflection possible. When you walk, coherence walks. When you love, the field stabilizes. When you breathe consciously, the universe exhales in rhythm with you. If the mind forgets, return to stillness. If doubt whispers, return to the heart. The science and the spirit have always pointed to the same horizon, that creation and creator are a single continuum, folding back upon itself in eternal recognition. You are that recognition. So let this be your gentle vow. Live coherence daily, not as effort, but as natural state. Speak it through kindness, move it through patience, radiate it through presence. The field needs no convincing, only your consistency. And when you do, when you live as coherence embodied, the division between manifestation and life dissolves. Every moment becomes creation. Every act becomes prayer. Every breath becomes participation. The hidden science ceases to be hidden because you are living proof of it, not waiting, not hoping, simply being the frequency that all things align to.